I have a dream. I accomplished that dream. What about you? In the next 20 minutes or 18 minutes, my goal is to challenge you to go after your own dreams. We always found a reason why we shouldn't. Too young, too old, studying, working, no money, too comfortable earning it. So did I. Until one day, a friend of mine sent me the next following quote. 20 years from now, you will be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did. So throw off those bowlines. Sail away from the safe harbor. Catch the trade winds in your sail. Explore, dream, discover. That was my wake-up call. To go after my dream. My dream? To sail solo across the Atlantic Ocean from Belgium to Cape Town, single-handed, in a just 6.5-meter sailing boat, and in such raising money and awareness for multiple sclerosis, a disease that my father suffers from. But, of course, starting your dream, going for your dream, doesn't go over one night of ice. So it all started with me, like for many other sailors, people learning to walk, for me learning to sail in an Optimist small sailing dinghy when I was 10 years old. At the age of 12, 2 years later, my family and we moved to Cape Town, to South Africa, and that's really where I got to learn real keelboat yacht racing. How? Simply by after 2 months we were living at home, well, getting used to the new climate and the new life, totally, was by cleaning off. I went to the marina, to the port, to clean the boats, the underwater, the compartment of the boats. And by that way, I said to the owner, you don't need to pay me, just take me with you. Take me with you on the ocean, take me with you to learn how to sail your boats. And so they did. And by this way, this is how I got into keelboat sailing, racing, and from then on, it was a journey that after coming back to Belgium, 3 years later, I went to study at the Nautical Academy in Antwerp, and that's now today I'm a seafarer on an LNG gas carrier, sailing across the world, delivering gas across the world. And it was on that gas carrier one night that I said, okay, actually, I am young enough, not too old, I'm not studying anymore, I'm working, and I've saved some money to live on for the next following year. Now is the time to go after my dream. That dream, to sail across 2 continents, from Belgium, Europe, to Cape Town, Africa, 11,000 kilometers far, 60 days expected to be on board, alone, across the ocean. However, one little challenge. Currents and trade winds really force you, it's impossible to go by the African coast and force you to go by the Brazilian coast. So, as my boat was just 6.5 meters long, I needed to make a stopover in Brazil, in Salvador, to supply new food, new water. And so, it turned to be 3 continents, 15,000 kilometers, and 90 days on board. On board, very little comfort. The boat is not much smaller than a bathtub, but what they have in common is probably much the comfort. Sleeping on a small mattress and eating and cooking on a small camping stove, that's it. But okay, dreaming nice, it's nice to dream, but it's time for action as well at a certain stage. And that time is when you need a boat. Without a boat, I pretty much was selling air, telling beautiful stories of what I was going to do. But I went to buy a boat. On board the LNG gas carrier that I'm working on, I have the full paper charts for my passage plan. So while I was 3 months on board of the ship, I was executing my passage plan, making my routes for Salvador and for Cape Town. And then back home, after 3 months at sea, I would be back home 3 months at home. Holiday? No holiday. Time to get that boat ready for the transatlantic ocean crossing. So taking out all the electronic equipment, changing that electronic equipment to new, trustable equipment. And of course, when you are sometimes when you're in the middle of the Atlantic and your sail doesn't come down for some reason, you have a problem. it's up to you to fix it, to challenge you. You are forced against nature, with nature, to solve the problems there on hand by yourself. Meaning that if you need to climb in a mast, you need to get up that mast 11 meters high in a rolling sea to fix it. Unfortunately, where I was living here in Limburg, we don't have so much water, so at first I was climbing in the trees to practice that before I would go to the coast, to the Belgian coast, and practice that in real life. Changing the mast, very critical equipment that needs good and important preparations. But in between those preparations, of course, I also needed to promote my projects, to promote SailingChallenge4MS, because at the end of the day, what was my goal? To raise money and awareness for MS. How? People could, for 10 euros, write a name on my sail, and like this, I would take their name across the ocean with me. Another way would be that I would sell every mile through the websites that I would be sailing. Like this, all my miles would be sold for MS research. Further than this, I also wanted to use my sport, sailing, really to motivate people with MS, to show them, look, okay, you have this setback, which really is something, but it's still up to you, and still you can have the force in you to make your own dreams come true. But also I wanted to use my sports to take them out sailing, to encourage them to move and to go for their dreams. And like this, in the summer of 2016, we did use the Sailing Academy at Newport in Belgium to take those people on the ocean and to sail. Good. After pretty much 1.5 years of thorough preparations, it was really time to set off and to sail. Leaving in Newport in Belgium on the 3rd of October 2016, I was off towards the big Atlantic Ocean, ready to take off, throwing off my lines, throwing off my bow lines. You see, I was not lying when I said comfort was really basic. Good. So, through the English channel, really was already a first big challenge. Why? You have a lot of shipping that needs to go through that narrow channel. You have a lot of sandbanks, which really made that sleep would be not more than 20 minutes. 20 minutes of sleep, checking your navigation, your surroundings, continue again to sleep for 20 minutes, and like this, trying to build up sleep for 4 to 5 hours a day. This for the first week. Then, here we go. So people could actually follow me through the websites. I would do a position reports twice a day, and like this, family, friends, my challengers would actually really know where I would be across the ocean sailing. And then it was time to really sail off, leaving Europe, off to Africa, continent number 2. That was for me really the big time to say, okay, we're off now, Ruben, time to go and head into the deep South Atlantic Ocean. What you do on board, how you clean yourself, how you wash yourself, having water just enough to take for cooking and washing, not for washing yourself, just enough for cooking and drinking. So, how do you wash yourself? How do you take a shower? Well, after 3 weeks, I was very happy to have a gift from the sky. Yeah, there you go. You saw my kitchen, pretty much. I was living for 90 days more outside than I was inside, of course. So, passing Europe, going to the Cape Verde Islands, first the Canary Islands, of course. That was my first big setback. Being seasick for 1 week, losing 12 kilograms in just 7 days, really put my energy limits really to the minimum. My batteries were empty, dead. So I was just sitting inside, waiting for 1 week in the boat to improve. You have an autopilot while you are inside the boat that keeps the boat sailing. with a minimum sales, and really thinking of, I can trust me when you are inside that boat for 1 week, waiting for the weather to improve, seasick, completely empty, the little engine here on top, or that computer starts to do really strange things. But that's something for another day. Then, of course, my next challenge was passing the doldrums. The place where actually really you see the red line. It's really where the north and the south trade winds come together, creating a zone of very limited to no wind. Compared, sometimes you would get like these clouds, big thunder clouds, dark clouds, where you would have force 8, force 9 kind of winds inside. So that was a big challenge to go in, to get through that zone. But then, of course, you also had your beautiful days of sailing across the ocean, and the nice thing, something very special, was crossing the equator.
2, 1, south, crossing the equator.
Time to celebrate. Cheers. Man, that tastes really good. Yeah, there are not many beers in my life that have tasted that good, I can tell you that. So, okay, time to continue just across the equator, so it's still a while to go. Here you see, we're on my way to Brazil. And then in Brazil, that was really, after 2 months on board, 2 months on the way, 5 hours just to go towards that first port was really a big challenge for me. Doing the first 50% of the trip was rather for me 80%. I proved myself already that I sailed across the Atlantic once, sailing, going again and leaving again to Cape Town for a second crossing, transatlantic crossing, was just to get a piece of the last piece of the cake. So once I set off, after just 4 days in Brazil, what you do in Brazil is just 2 days to get used to a nice hotel, take a good fresh shower, and then 2 days to prepare the boat, get new food, new water on board to continue your voyage. And then you're off 2 weeks on board, and then waking up suddenly by a big bang, that you wake up and you go and check outside to see that you have plastic garbage floating around, and the boat hit one of those things, one of those big garbage drums, oil drums. That really was, I think, mentally the biggest challenge of the whole trip. Really knowing that from one moment, really comfortable, relaxed, to the next, like this, that it can be game over, was really something. And luckily, I was happy enough and lucky enough that that garbage really didn't hit the boat, the rudders. It didn't hit the rudders, so I never had any damage and could continue my voyage. Then, getting closer to Christmas, it was time to think about my Christmas dinner. Although that option was very limited, either freeze-dried spaghetti or freeze-dried chicken noodles. But it happened to be rice biscuits in the end, because the weather was too strong, too bad to cook any water that day. And then one of the most funny days is Sunday, of course. Time to get a new fresh pair of socks, new boxers out after being soaked with seawater for 1 week. And, of course, making a phone call by satellite phone to my family to let them know that I was still alive and on my way to Cape Town. And then you arrive to Cape Town. That after 2 years of preparation, after 3 months on your way of sailing, to see the Table Mountain going up, coming up, and realizing that your dream that was won when at the age of 12 years old, so far away, has now been accomplished, is really a feeling that I cannot explain. This movie will maybe show you a little bit about it.
That's a nice spot there. Some hot chocolate! Long time no see, buddy.
I'm here now.
How you doing, man? Hey, there's it. Hold it there.
There you go. So there we go, Cape Town. Meeting my family and friends again is really a crazy feeling after 90 days. And then the picture that really explains that really tells everything, that puts those 2 months, those 2 years together, is this one. And the message I want to give today with you home, that I want you to take home today, is that really I think we are living in a world where news is it is negative. We're living in a world where, yes, we have to make a career, we have to make money, to make more money, sometimes we live in a world where we really question ourselves, is it wise or wise to raise a next generation in it? And then I say, we need people who have dreams and to go and accomplish their dreams. So I want you today to think and to go home and say, have I had a dream that I maybe didn't do it, and I really was at a stage that I didn't do, that I wanted to do it, but I didn't? Well, maybe it's time to think now that to really do that and to go for that dream. So I really want to thank you today. One thing I want to say more is that we are here today in a university. 4 walls built to build on knowledge, to work on a sustainable world, and to go and live and make the most of it and bring something positive to the world. So go home and bring something positive to this world, because it is a beautiful world. Thank you.